Hello, my loves. Welcome back to Chemistry with Kismet Tarot. I am Monica, the Kismet Chemist. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Welcome to the family. I am honored to have you. If you are returning, welcome back. I have missed you. I want to open this before we get into the context of the reading and the intro with giving you all so much thanks. I have such a deep appreciation for each and every one of you. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that the month of August for me has been one of the most challenging that I have come to in my life. And that's kind of saying something considering the amount of trials and struggles I have been through in my life, things that I have overcome. With the death of my grandmother, the importance that she had in my waking life and her transition into spirit and learning a new way of maintaining and nourishing and nurturing that relationship, it has been heavy on my heart and taxing on my energy, on my body. It's been a lot for me. Being able to share her memory, her stories, and what I'm going through, being given the grace to take the time that I needed to be with my family, to honor her, and to move through healing from each and every one of you, as well as the outpouring of love and support. I cannot thank you all enough. It is not unnoticed, those moments where someone thinks of me and sends me just a burst of positivity. It has helped me navigate through this time. This reading, this creative coming together of 8 incredible people has also been a light in a very dark time for me. It was so divinely guided. This reading, we're all 8 of us coming together to bring you guidance and messages from the 8 elements. When Colleen from Spiritualistic approached me and the other readers, my heart was so heavy. My mind was going a million different directions, and all I wanted to do was create. All I wanted to feel was inspired. And she came in with this beautiful blessing of people that just have so many gifts and so much love and are so attuned and tapped into spirit. And it helped keep me grounded. It helped me remember that there's always a next step forward. When we were all kind of deciding on the elements and allowing ourselves to be guided, I knew as soon as I saw wind, I knew that my grandmother was working in the spiritual realm already to guide me, to help me. Wind is so connected to my memory of her, my childhood out on her farm, and all the many wind chimes she had in her yard that would sing and bring peace and such a strong presence in my memories in my childhood. This was the element I knew calling to me to bring forth messages. The element of wind speaks to our soul. It talks about air in motion. It can be destructive, but no matter what destruction we come to, it always has a purpose for greater growth, greater fertility, greater awareness, and an opportunity to revolutionize the way that we approach the world, the way that we view the world, the way that we hold a specific perspective that may not be serving us. As I sat to contemplate how to bring forth these messages, normally we hear winds of change, but change was not a word that felt right. It was revolution. We can fear change, but revolution has a certain sovereignty, a certain energy of personal power, of knowingness. This is about learning the power to create, taking the thoughts, the inspiration, the wisdom that you have, and bringing it into the world, asking questions, and allowing yourself to be open and receptive to what may come forth and how it can bring you into a state of newness, wisdom, awareness, and beauty. We have 3 piles here. Each one starts with a question and has a meditation as well. Take your time and look over the piles. Tap into the energies. Allow yourself to be led. If you're coming from one of the other readers, welcome. If you are looking for where to go next, all of the links to each and every one of these amazing readers is in the description box, as well as their channels. Please make sure you guys give them a lot of love, a lot of support, and welcome them into our community as well. So with that, I would absolutely love to name each and every reader. We have Sammy with Psychic Siren Tarot, who is channeling the element of spirit or space or the ethers. We have Carissa, my love, with 9 3/4, who is channeling the element of air. We have Allie, such a beautiful soul, with the sea owl, who is channeling the element of water. We have Colleen with spiritualistic, who is channeling the element of wood. And a huge, huge thanks to her for bringing us all together. I think I've said it 1.5 million times. I'll keep saying it. We have Luca with Source Light Star, and he is tapping into the element of fire. And I can't wait for that magic. My darling soul sister, Lexi, with Lexi the Leo, who's going to help us tap into Mother Earth. She has such a beautiful affinity for it. I always love when she brings forth messages from Earth. And the ever incredible Tay with the goddess of the unknown, who is channeling the element of metal. Being a part of this collaboration, a part of this soul family, it is a beautiful, beautiful blessing. And I am so deeply honored to be part of this. So without further ado, my loves, I'm going to get us that meditation music and bird song and give you guys some time with the cards. And then I will see you at your piles. The timestamps, as always, are in the description box as well as in the comment section. I will see you at your piles. Love you guys. Hello, pile one. If you chose the first question, what does happiness mean to me? This is your message from the winds of revolution in your life. The question itself, what does happiness mean to me, is something that your guides and wind want you to keep in the back of your mind as this reading progresses. And before we get into the Harry Potter meditation card, I want to talk about this card, Hurricane. Each of the piles, there has been a certain form of wind that has come through. With you, pile one, it's a hurricane. And as I was preparing for this reading, I was led to Googling how a hurricane is actually formed. And I am on the Ocean Service .noaa.gov site, and it gives what they call a recipe for a hurricane. With a hurricane, there are 5 steps. The first 4 steps involve a disturbance formation, which turns into a tropical disturbance, into a tropical depression, into a tropical storm, and from there, it becomes a hurricane. The 5th and final step of a hurricane is the dissipation of it. The first thing that came through about this is hurricanes are formed in the ocean. They are a complete and utter chance occurrence. We, as science has progressed and technology and meteorology, we can hypothesize and predict certain, let's say, Spirit, what is the right word for this? Because we're looking at a recipe, they can look and see that there are a set of ingredients or situations, occurrences in weather out in the ocean that have X amount of likelihood to become a hurricane. For a hurricane to form, it needs to have a pre-existing weather disturbance. It needs to have something in existence already, something called a tropical wave. A tropical wave is a low pressure area that hits the tropic area, the tropics, where it's very moisture rich. So it needs a lot of moisture and water in a warm place. It also needs that warm water, but the warm water has to reach a certain depth in order for it to contribute to the formation. From there, it needs thunderstorm activity. It needs that electricity, the heat, the water, the right air movement, the right airflow, and then it needs what's called a low wind shear. So it needs a large disturbance in the wind speed and direction around this event, this weather disturbance, to possibly form a hurricane. But the formation of it is not a guarantee. We can have a lot of the right ingredients. And if you are a baker or if you cook and you're going based off of a recipe, you've got a recipe card in front of you and you're going step by step. No matter how much you follow each step to a T, sometimes the end result is not going to be the same. That's something that with my grandma, she made what I called grandma buns. My mom called mom buns and everybody else called Betty's buns. And in my small corner of the world, they are well known and incredibly unique. They retain softness with this perfectly golden brown outside. And she has a recipe for it. And it's funny because she says it's just, your regular Betty Crocker recipe. But the way that she makes it, the uniqueness that she puts into it is how they come out the way they are meant to. And my brother and my younger cousin and, multiple members of our family have all gone and learned from her while she was here how she makes them, trying to replicate it. And each time it's not come out quite right, not the same. We have the ingredients, we have the recipe for something, and it can either become something soft and delicious and memorable and hold importance, or it can turn into a hurricane. Hurricanes need all of these specific events and occurrences. They need the heat, the warmth of the water. So you need that fire energy added to water, and you need the electric energy with a thunderstorm, and you need that little bit of chaos in the way the wind is blowing. In this case, sometimes the chaos represents our perception, the way that we believe. For you, there's an energy of outside influences. And the hurricane formation is not always in our hands. So we're going to look at this here. So This is a card that talks about resistance. And resistance can be seen in multiple ways. It can be our resistance to something, us giving a kind of push off energy, or it could be us standing up to something that isn't quite right, doesn't match, doesn't resonate. It says in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Hagrid experiences prejudice as a result of his half-giant heritage. Sadly, this is not an isolated incident. The wizarding world as a whole struggles with prejudice, both against muggles and muggle-born wizards. Have you ever experienced prejudice in your life or witnessed it? Today, take an action, big or small, to combat prejudice in the world. When I channel, it comes through in a means of relational energy. So spirit will bring me to certain situations I've been through to help build a bridge between my experiences and the energy that I'm feeling. There's a multitude of different experiences that I have coming through here. But the very first one that I tapped into happened when I was a club manager at Planet Fitness. I was only there for a month and a half before I walked away. When I was offered the position, the pay was higher than any job I've ever been paid. It, was a higher position than I've ever had in the working world. But everything fell together exactly right. It felt so right. It truly was a calling from my soul to move into that place. After my first week, my guides gave me a pull out energy, it's time to go energy. They presented me with essentially that tropical wave, that disturbance formation. And I fought it. I said, no, no, I just started. Sorry, guys, I just hiccuped. I just started here. Why would you pull me from this right now? Why would this be presented and brought into my life only for me to be called to leave? And so I resisted. And what I experienced in the following weeks involved a lot of prejudice, a lot of exterior ideas and perceptions and projections onto me. I experienced accusations. One in particular was one of my employees was sick and couldn't move. And I asked if she would like me to aid her with using some reiki energy to help her heal. And she said, yes, please. And so we did a brief reiki session so that she was able to move her body without pain again. And I was accused of sexual harassment. And she and I are best friends. And so it was something that was out of left field and very off base. But there was a prejudice in place because of something that had happened at a different club by a different manager in a different situation. But it was a prejudice that came against me. The day that came into my life, I had a conversation with my husband, David. I was in tears. I was upset. He had heard the whole conversation. And I said, is it really worth it? Is it worth it for me to continue doing this? I knew my spirit team did not want me there anymore. I knew they wanted me to walk away. And it wasn't until that moment that I felt as though I had learned what I needed to. And it comes right back to this: what does happiness mean to me? My kids were not used to me being gone for 46 hours a week at a minimum. They were not used to me sleeping during the day because I suddenly needed to take a night shift, or me not being there for supper, me not being there to pick them up from school. It was hard on them. They had just started adjusting to it. And I was looking at the financial benefit of me working. My husband and I, we do our best for our family, but it doesn't mean that we don't struggle. We don't have hardships. It doesn't mean that we haven't been hit with all the same things that everybody else in the world is hit with inflation rates and this and that, and the cost of living increasing and increasing and increasing. It felt as though I had found a calm point in that particular situation in my life. And now I was facing this incredible prejudice against me. They didn't know me. They never gave me an opportunity to speak, to explain, to anything. There was no opportunity for me to have a voice. And it came down to me deciding, what does this mean for me? Is this bringing us happiness, even though it is aiding us financially? Is it really worth it? Is it really worth what it's doing to me, to our family, to all of it? And I was unknowingly in the eye of the hurricane where everything is calm. When you're in the eye, you can want to stay in the eye because, man, those hurricane winds, they're terrifying. They're damaging. They're destructive. But if you stay in the eye, then you are always going to be surrounded by that destruction. Even if it's not hitting you directly, you're still surrounded by it. And so in that situation, I decided that the best thing for me to do was to choose me, to choose my family, to choose my true path, to choose to heed the calling of my heart and my soul and my higher self and my guide team and spirit, and walk away. And when I did that, I made it a point to address all of the concerns, the dehumanization that occurred with the people in middle management and below that. Address all of the concerns that I was never afforded the opportunity to share my voice on. I gave a voice to everyone, and then I walked away. And I have seen more and more destruction, not just in that area, because there's a big deal going on with Planet Fitness in North Dakota now, but there was destruction in my own personal life that I walked into by walking out of that. Not the same as what came before the eye of the storm. This was the result of me wanting to stay in the eye for longer than I should have. It was a disconnect from my husband, from my kids, a disconnect from this channel, from my gifts, from my calling, a disconnect from my physical body, from my mental body, from the healing that I have been working on for years. There was such a strong disconnect that I had to come back to it and realize how much I had put on hold to remain in the center for so long. I no longer am looking for when the dissipation is going to come, because sometimes we think it's going to dissipate and then it builds. It's like a hurricane hitting, making landfall. Sometimes the projection of a hurricane making landfall is that it's going to dissipate and weaken. And what happens is it hits land, and there's enough heat and there's enough potency and enough shifting of the wind. There's enough change and revolution that it builds instead of breaks down and creates more destruction. My mother-in-law lives out in Florida and was hit incredibly hard by Hurricane Michael. And my husband and I went out there in the summer of 2019, and the destruction was still there. It was so widespread, and there was a tangible feeling of hopelessness in the air. Homes destroyed, schools destroyed, businesses destroyed, trees destroyed. But I went out again in the summer of 2022, and the rebuild from that was miraculous. It was beautiful to witness as they were still repairing the white sand beaches. There were people out on the beaches, swimming in the ocean, new businesses, new homes. And you could see new trees growing through the broken trees from before. And that's why when you are called to step out of the eye and that fear comes in of what more is going to come at the other side, the other half of the hurricane, the other half of the storm, we're always asked to remember that we may face things where we feel as though everything is against us and we can't continue to navigate our way through. But when you're doing this, when you're enduring this, when you are going through this kind of powerful wind in your life, it's because the clearing gives you an opportunity to realize that there's always a stronger force within you driving you forward. That force of life and love and happiness drives you forward. So this question that the wind and your guides and spirit are asking you, what does happiness mean to you? They don't want you to think in a short-term possibility. They want you to think about perfecting the ingredients, perfecting the recipe, perfecting the process, understanding that there will be storms, understanding that there will be things and people and projections that will come at you. But what does it mean to you? How important is it to you? And what constitutes it? Because it's worth fighting for, just like you're worth fighting for. So we're going to get a couple more messages here. What more does pile one need to know from the element of wind for this revolution, this change? Okay. Yeah, we've got the Seven of Wands on the back. Okay. I'm going to put that over here. 10 of Swords, 2 of Cups. I apologize if the sound goes in and out. 2 of Pentacles and the Hierophant. The choices made in life, whether they're your choices or other people's choices, they don't dictate your worthiness of what you desire. We can come face to face with exactly what we want, but feel like we have to follow a certain path. And that path is something that involves pain and anguish. And while, yeah, there's a lot of thought forms and perceptions out there that say we don't have to suffer. And I don't think we have to suffer. I don't think we always necessarily choose to, but I truly believe my personal truth is that suffering is one of the greatest paths of growth. It is one of our greatest teachers in life. And going through things where we're hurt, we're scared, we're seeing destruction, in whatever way that word destruction comes to mind for you, whatever perception you have of it. When we honor and respect those moments, we start seeing a kind of beauty in it. We start realizing that these things that we might think throw us off balance are actually there to help us realize that we're the ones that determine how it goes, how it's going to be. We're the bakers. So these moments of prejudice, these moments where we're coming up against the storm, where there seems to be nothing but fight and battle and pain and anguish and mental torment and exhaustion. Those are just things that are there. But we have these other things, and we have a hard time seeing those when we're in that situation. We have a hard time realizing the good when we are dealing with the bad. There's always the counterbalance. We see it as light and dark. We see it as shadow or ego and our higher self, our spiritual self, our true self. We see it as what we want to define it as. All of that is what gives us a structure of truth. When we're moving through a hurricane, when we're dealing with something where we feel like every door keeps closing and happiness is unattainable because we have to fight for it. And at some point, you just don't want to fight anymore. Let the wind blow through. Step into that other half of the hurricane. Step into the back end, because you've already been through the worst of it. Even if the wind speeds are the same and the destruction is the same, the initial destruction is already there. So the back end of the hurricane is just helping bring the nutrients back. bring life back. It's helping clear away. And so you get the opportunity in that moment to look around and say, okay, this is what I have left to work with. And what this is telling me is what you have left to work with is union, community, balance, magic. It's seeing the truth reflected. It's realizing that most of the time when we're coming up against something that makes us feel as though we are being prejudiced against, or there's opposition to us, there's a battle, there's hardship, there's deception, deceit, betrayal. That's because the pain that is occurring internally, the hurricane occurring internally, they haven't learned the lessons of the I the way that you have. And sometimes being the bigger person is not always the easiest. But sometimes that's what we're asked to do. So let's see what this final message is. The 10 of Cups. When you realize that a lot of those things are happening because someone else is scared of something else and it has nothing to do with you, and you say, I'm going to choose me, I'm going to choose my happiness, I'm going to walk away, you're choosing the 10 of Cups. You're choosing the happiness that you deserve. And yes, there may be some storms, and yes, there may seem to be opposition. That opposition is because you're letting go, you're releasing, you're learning how to allow for dissipation finally. So I want to get, I made a huge stack of these back in March for a collaboration that never came out because we couldn't coordinate. And I still have it. I'm convinced that when it's time for that collaboration to be released, it will be. But this is a stack of main character cards, and they're character cards from TV shows, movies, books, everything that I've been called to, drawn to at any given point in time. I have to add to it, but I want to see main character energy right now for you guys. Okay. We have Jack Shepherd from Lost. If you don't know these characters, please feel free to look them up. We have Shannon Rutherford from Lost. A lot of Lost energy. I'm not surprised. Adrian Ivashkov from Vampire Academy. And then we have Peeta Mellark from The Hunger Games. Okay. Each and every one of these characters has a commonality here. Jack Shepherd was a doctor. Shannon Rutherford, her father was very wealthy. Adrian is considered vampire royalty. And Peeta, in The Hunger Games, his father has high standing in District 12. All of these characters have come from what is perceived as some sort of privilege, some sort of leg up. But that is a perception. Jack Shepherd was bullied by his own father for years, always trying to live up to his father and the demands and trying to earn love Shannon Rutherford went through tragedy and was disowned or, pushed away, and learned that the only way that she was going to survive was to con people, to hurt people, to use someone else's love for the sake of her own safety and security and survival. Adrian, born with a silver spoon, never felt as though he had an opportunity or a choice of who he was allowed to love, and never felt seen, acknowledged, was gifted, and his gifts were not recognized. And Peta had one of the most trusting, loving hearts, and willingly fought for love. All of these characters had a seeming higher status, like the Hierophant. Each and every one of the characters dealt with this energy, all of them seeking this 10 of Cups. In order to get there, they had to realize their own inner strength, their own inner wisdom. We all go through things in life. When we choose to see from a higher perspective, as challenging as that is, when we choose to see from a higher perspective, then we find certain revelations which lead to the revolution. I came to a very strong revelation that even though my family has struggled with money for years, even though we have seen true poverty, we have seen true hardship, it's no matter what, even though we've hit that point, even though I was given this opportunity, this chance that on the surface seemed to be heaven sent and blessed, it was not worth my happiness, my joy, my family's happiness, my truth, my purpose, my path. It was not worth that. Money can't buy that. Privilege can't buy that. That revelation is freedom for me. So I want to get one final message for my pile ones. One final message. Or two. I love this. Bonnie Wright, who is the actress who played Ginny Weasley in the Harry Potter films. I think sometimes when you begin to examine things like yourself, suddenly you can just freak out and not want to go any further. That is the acknowledgement that it can be really hard to take that next step out of the eye of the storm into the back end of it. It can be hard because you see it. You're not alone in that feeling, but there is more for you out there. Yes. Within your being, there are galaxies filled with limitless creative inspirations. Fill your life with possibility from those sparks. You have everything you need to perfect what happiness means to you, to perfect where, how, and who you want to be in this life, the experiences, the joy, the love. You have it within you already. Everything always comes from within. That feeling that it's time to move into that next, whatever it is, that revolution that you're being called towards. Your belief in yourself is it's the secret ingredient. It can be scary. It can be daunting, especially when you have had to fight and defend and endure. It can be scary. But what does happiness mean to you? What is its importance? What is its meaning? Sometimes allowing the winds to blow, to swirl, to reach their huge maximum peaks, to cycle around and spin around in a seemingly chaotic state is exactly what you need for the swords to be swept away and for you to see all that you are. Wow, pile one. Oh, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to your guides, to my guides, to the Great Spirit, to all those in spirit helping channel these messages. And thank you so much to the element of wind for bringing this forth. I also want to say thank you to Colleen from Spiritualistic for the inspiration for this collaboration and creative endeavor, for bringing us 8 channels together, and for this soul family that we have. Don't forget to go down into the description box, check out the links to the other elements and the other channels. Give them love and support. And again, thank you guys so much. If this resonated, if you enjoyed the reading, if you just want to support my channel, awesome. You can like the video, comment, share, subscribe to my channel. If you feel up to donating, I don't know why I said it that way. That was weird. If you feel called to donating, it's not expected, but there are links in the description box for that as well. I am going to leave you here, pile one. I love you guys so much. I believe in you. And I will see you at my next reading. Bye. Hello, pile two. If you chose the second card in question, who am I? This is your message of guidance from the wind. Now, if you guys can hear a little bit of background noise, I do have my window open. This is an intentional thing. I'm hoping that I'm able to kind of edit a little bit of it out so it's not quite so loud, but it felt important for this pile in particular. So with each of the piles, there's been a type of weather phenomenon related to wind that I was drawn to. For yours, we have a tornado. Now, if you have been on my channel for a while, you know that I talk about the symbolism of tornadoes quite often. Your pile in particular, this is a very synchronistic, auspicious thing that I wanted to share with you. As I am filming this, we have severe thunderstorms moving through my area. And it was about 10 minutes or so after I had set the energy here, set the cards out, and waited for the energy to come in, that I got a notification on my phone that we are in a tornado warning. Now, the tornado warning is passed for my area, but the synchronicity of that makes this that much more powerful of a message. And I am blown away by it. Pile 2, this question, who am I? First of all, that is a question that your guides and spirit and the element of wind has been, what I'm getting is it's been brought to you in a variety of different ways. We walk through this life and we build this identity, this belief of this is who I am. And that identity is built upon hats that we wear. For me, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a content creator, I am this, I am that. None of those are who I am at my core. They're parts of who I am to other people, what I do in the world, and how the world identifies me based off of things, actions, what have you. This who I am or who am I question for you is a calling to dig deeper. It's a calling to welcome in the energy of the tornado that twists and spins and hits the ground and kicks up dust and tears from the ground the topsoil. And look what's beneath the surface. Look at all that you contain underneath all those hats, underneath all the layers, underneath all the titles, all the labels, all the identifiers. Look to the core. Who are you, pile 2? And this can be a very triggering question. I know it was, I think, 2 years ago when I was in a meditation, and it was the first time that I connected with Odin's energy and heard his voice very, very clearly with my clairaudience, and it slammed into me like a freight train. The power, the magnitude of that. And I heard, who are you, Monica? It's been a question in my mind for years. Right now, there is such potent energy for you, pile 2, for you to look beneath the topsoil, look underneath, look at what you contain. Look at all the nutrients and the fertility and the abundance and the creative, raw creative potential that you have within you. asking yourself, who am I? It's not about what you do. It's not about the place you have in other people's lives. This is a solo, individual question. Who are you? Who are you? When you allow yourself to look at that layer deeper, it can be easy to run away. It can be easier to look away because raw creative potential is infinite. And when you have this kind of infinite energy within you, the mind can take over and it can create the melee of the tornado. But here's the thing about a tornado's formation: the clouds need to be tall, reaching higher and higher, and a supercell forms. But it is all, we see a tornado as coming down from the clouds because that's how the funnel cloud forms. But the energy goes up from the ground first. So this is about you realizing that what exists underneath all of that, what exists there, that raw creative potential, that raw, pure energy of infinite creation is directly connected and anchored to the higher realms. Wow, pile 2. We're going to take a look at this Harry Potter mindful meditation card. And all the piles have a resistance card. And resistance can be an energy we give off, a push away energy, an energy of fear, hesitancy, uncertainty. But a resistance can also be standing up to what you know is not right, what you know does not resonate, does not vibe, and saying, here I am. This is me. This is my power. So let's see what this has to say. It says, in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Fred and George Weasley challenged the regime of the tyrannical Professor Umbridge by unleashing a barrage of fireworks in the middle of the 5th year's OWL exams before making an impressive exit on brooms. Do you think a public spectacle like this can be an effective way to protest a bad situation? Would you participate in something like this, or would you prefer to make a quiet exit? Give me one moment, guys. Okay, I needed to close the window a little bit because even though you can't see it, there's little water spritzes from the rain right now. And to me, that just speaks even more to the power that you have at your disposal right now. The power that you have within you, this power of who you genuinely are, who you authentically are. This card asks about the grand exit from Fred and George Weasley. Now, I got to tell you guys, I am always going to be the person who believes that Professor Umbridge is the worst antagonist in the history of all books. She's the most frustrating, the most upsetting, and the most triggering, for me at least, because I know her energy. I'm familiar with that. And I know what it feels like to speak the truth and be punished. I know what it's like to have that building frustration, anger, and hostility with nowhere to go. I know what it's like to walk around with the scars that Harry walks around with. So the question of what would you do if you were Fred and George and you saw the, we'll say, audacity of a person in charge who is using that power to harm others? What would you do? Would you walk away quietly, or would you make it known? I can make arguments for either side. You know, there's a part of me that's the warrior, that's the fighter, that's been silenced in the past. And man, that part of me, she does not like silence. She does not like quiet exits at all. And then there is the part of me that understands that sometimes silent exits leave the greatest impact. And the question that I'm getting here is, what if you were both Fred and George Weasley and Professor Umbridge? What if the tyrant was within you and you recognized that there's this part of you that is keeping you silent, not allowing you to speak your truth, not allowing you to live your truth, holding you back, holding you hostage? When you ask yourself the question of who am I, and you allow that tornado to come in, are you the tornado, or is the tornado the revelation? Do you quietly realize and say, okay, I'm moving into a different state. I'm going to be the farmer, put my head down, plant the seeds, tend to the garden? Or do you embody the wind, become the tornado, and say, see what I contain within me, and make it known? Whatever the situation, and I'm not going to try to posit any scenarios. I'm not even being given any, because it feels, I'm hearing, too personal. And not for that to be triggering. Nothing is meant to be too as though it is overwhelming or not meant for others to partake in. But it's more of, this is between you and you. Whatever the situation is, what you contain within you, this power, this energy, this rawness, my advice, okay, I had to check with your guides and make sure that they're on board with this. My advice for you is to look directly at it. If you are afraid, that's okay. It's okay to acknowledge that fear. It's okay to feel it. It's okay to recognize it. It's okay to contain it. It's your choice whether it is given the power to control. But when you see your fear as a teacher, when you see your fear as a part of you that reacts out of a protective mechanism within you, you realize that your fear is nothing more or less than the topsoil of love. When you have this kind of power, when you see injustice in whatever way it appears in your life, it could be on a large scale. You could be that Aquarian humanitarian energy, or it could be within yourself where you see the injustice of how you interact with you, how you interact with the rest of the world, and what kind of honoring and respect you give to the truth of who you are. However it plays out, you have a powerful energy within you. And when you have a powerful energy, I always remember Peter Parker's grandfather in Spider-Man. And I'm talking about the one with Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst, because that's what I grew up watching. But he said, with great power comes great responsibility. Something that my doctor said to me yesterday. I had a doctor's appointment. I've been going through a lot of stuff with my Ehlers-Danlos, with my grandmother's passing, with a lot of different emotions and physical pains and changes. And my gifts, especially how my gifts played out surrounding my grandmother's passing. And I sat in a chair across from her and I cried. She walked in the door, she took one look at me and I just started crying. And she told me, people with incredibly powerful gifts like yours need an incredibly powerful support system. When she started that comment, I was bracing myself for the responsibility comment, for anything that was going to continue to feed into the overwhelm. But instead, it was like the moment that I opened up my true self and spoke my struggles in an honest way, instead of staying quiet or instead of making a spectacle. I just was very honest. I was seen and heard, and I was gifted this wisdom that I didn't realize for myself. Pile 2, you're very similar. This energy is very similar. I don't think it's any shock to hear that with great power comes great responsibility. But that can be a crippling thing. You have a great power within you, And the wind wants you to see that about yourself and to realize that even a tornado needs the help of the earth. It needs the help of the water in the air and the storm clouds and the heat of the sun. For a tornado to occur, it needs the help of other things, other elements. It is a great power, but it needs great help in order to form, in order to become what it is. And it can be destructive, but it can also bring blessings. Blessings to the land, to new beginnings. It's hard to see those. It is. Especially when it's tearing shit up. That doesn't mean that it isn't still bringing blessings. And your guides want you to remember that it is okay to recognize that you have a great power. And it doesn't just mean that there's a lot of responsibility towards it. It also means that in this life, because you chose to carry this amount of power within you, you also chose to make sure that you had great amount of support. Let's get a little bit further in here. Spirit guides, the element of wind. I open up and ask for more guidance for pile 2. What does pile 2 need to know? What more does pile 2 need to know right now? Okay, so we have the Fool and we have the Page of Swords. On the back, we have the Queen of Swords. This is an energy that for some of you is very easy to be in. The Queen of Swords, she knows, she's very decisive, she's very logical, she's very precise. But the Queen of Swords can be very cold. She can come off as very heartless. But you're surrounded by the Page of Swords and the Fool, and these two both have a very childlike energy to them. A tornado can seem very destructive. It can come in and rip things up, rip trees and their roots. It can reduce a home to sticks, flip cars, destroy things. It can be very hard and definitive. But this is so strange. As a kid, I was always afraid of tornadoes. I was always afraid of them. I remember being at an amusement park and there were funnel clouds, like 5 different funnel clouds, and it was terrifying. And there were people screaming and running, and kids got lost, and it was mayhem and chaos and everything. But the funnel clouds never formed into tornadoes. They never touched down. And in a way, it was almost like the clouds themselves were just they were just playing around. They were just hopping down, and tornadoes can hop from place to place. We look at it from our perspective and we see something destructive. We see something bad. We see something fearful. But what if the tornado is just looking to have a play date with the earth? It's just looking to form that connection, to have that chance at a new experience. The Page of Swords is that playful, curious energy. And you can see the Fool card here in and of itself is the embodiment of a curious energy. The cat is very curious about this butterfly. And that's symbolic in and of itself because the butterfly is all about metamorphosis and transformation. And the Fool card is that leap into starting that journey. So it can be triggering. It can be challenging when you are at the stage of asking yourself, who am I? And recognizing that it's time to take off all the hats, strip down all the labels and identifiers, and go down into the essence. But this is about a playdate with your soul, if you so choose to see it that way. You know, with Fred and George Weasley, even though they were standing up to the man, or, you know, like making a grand statement to protest something that was inherently wrong, they did it in an incredibly playful way that was never meant to harm anyone. They set off a bunch of fireworks, and it didn't do anything beyond set off fireworks. But what they did in that moment, that playful moment of sharing their gifts and sharing all the things that they did, while also taking a stand and saying, we are not doing this anymore. We are not engaging in this anymore. We do not agree with this level of leadership or this manner of leadership, and we are leaving. What they did was rejuvenate the spirit and the hope within the student body at Hogwarts. The purpose behind it was for them to go out with a bang, so to speak. But it was also to help others remember that they had a voice, that they have a voice. When I do my channel, that is literally my intention, is to share my gifts, my wisdom, the channeled messages I'm called to share my stories, to connect with you in a way that helps you see that it's okay for you to be all of what you are, all of who you are, every aspect of you. To get curious, to get creative, to get playful, and to dive into that truth of you and let yourself be swept away by your essence. This Queen of Swords energy, it's more of a calling for you to decide to embrace all of you, your inner child, your power, your creativity, your potential, to completely accept all of yourself and to show the world by taking a stand and standing up and saying, this is who I am, showing the world that it's okay for them to do it too. And you do this in your own unique way. However you do it, it doesn't have to be on such a grand scale if you don't feel called to it. It can be in one relationship. It can be you in the bathroom in front of the mirror, saying, this is who I am and this is who I choose to be, and allowing that to be your leap forward, and start getting curious and inspired by the world again. Sometimes it's just about making that decision and being really firm in it and saying, this is true for me. This is right for me. Because you have allowed for yourself to do what is right. So let's take a look at this last piece, the Two of Wands. Because you hold the world in your hands, because you have a vision of the future, and because you know that once that topsoil gets ripped up, look at all this new abundant growth all around you. Look at this play date you have with the world. Seeing into the future, looking towards your future, when it feels like there's so much restriction that can make it hard to be decisive. Now is the time to let yourself look forward again. So these are cards that I made a long time ago. They are character cards, main character cards. And it's different TV, movie, and book characters. So we're just going to get a few to see what kind of main character energy you guys are working with. Okay. All right. We have Desmond Hume from Lost. Desmond is one of my all-time favorite characters from Lost. We have Rosalie Hale from Twilight. And Walter or Walt Lloyd from Lost. All right. So with Desmond, actually with all three of these, the common thread of all three of these characters is based upon choices and decisions that were made for them rather than ones that they made. Desmond needed to prove himself in order to be worthy of marrying the woman that he loved because of, his past. Rosalie was made into a vampire. It was not her choice. She would not have chosen that path. Though over time, she embraces it, accepts it, and finds her true soulmate. It is not something that she would have chosen because it meant that she had to give up things that she had dreamed of, like being a parent. And with Walt had very powerful gifts. And he was taken and used because of those gifts by people, strangers, taken from his father after his mother had passed in a strange place. And he wasn't given a choice in that. And then he was taken off the island by his father without being given the choice to do that either. And it was something that shaped him throughout his life. So these moments in which we are robbed of choices create actions, but they don't create personas. We are not perpetually subjugated to the lack of choice, but we have lessons to learn in those moments. Those moments teach us more about who we are. I'm brought back to Rosalie and the fact that in Twilight, she doesn't necessarily like Bella because Bella chooses to become a vampire. It's a choice that Bella makes. And Rosalie disagrees because it wasn't the choice that she would have made. But when Bella becomes pregnant, Rosalie is her number one protector because that is the one thing that Rosalie never got the opportunity for. And so she wants to protect the sanctity, the essence of that moment. We get the opportunity to experience certain things in a different way when we understand that while our choice has been taken from us, we can still see the lesson in that and choose for ourselves, choose our path. Fred and George had options taken from them, choices taken from them, opportunities taken from them because of Professor Umbridge. So they chose to go their own direction. Their mom didn't agree with their quote unquote extracurriculars, with their joke shop, but they created something grand out of it that actually brought a lot of joy and a lot of hope and a lot of happiness in very dark times. And sometimes we have to find the way to take a stand and show who we really are, even though some of our choices have been taken. Sometimes a tornado can seem like things are being taken from us. We don't have an option in the destruction. But we do have the choice of how we rebuild afterwards. So we're just going to get a final message from your guides. What final message does my pile 2 need in this moment? Okay. We have, yes. Standing in your truth involves hearing and respecting others' truths without sacrificing your own. This is very similar to this. What would you do in that situation? How would you respond? You can stand in your truth, knowing who you are, and understand that other people are going to have this perception or that perception. That may be their truth because that's how they perceive things. And you can respect that, but you don't have to sacrifice who you are and what your truth is. And then we have northeast, and it says, the path opens to discover the flame in the sky, illuminating the soul's passion. This right here is the Fool and the Page of Swords. It's this reigniting your soul's passion involves getting curious, looking to the sky, remembering that this is a power that you have, this connection to the higher realms. And I'm going to tell you guys one more beautiful synchronicity. You have this northeast energy. This is literally the direction that the storm in my area is moving right now. It is moving to the northeast. Spirit has come through in incredibly potent, incredibly powerful ways to bring you this message, to let you know that yes, it may seem like certain choices have been made for you, certain decisions that have set you on a path. How have they shaped you into who you are, inside and out? And when you recognize who you are internally, watch the sky and allow it to open and see how your path unfolds for you. It will be for you to see. That's the message. Okay, pile 2, this is what I have for you. This was incredible. I want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you to your guides, my guides, the Great Spirit, Thank you so much to the awesome element of wind for coming through with this message. Thank you as well to Colleen from Spiritualistic for bringing all 8 of us together to channel the elements, to bring forth these messages, to connect once more with Soul Family. This has been incredible, Pile 2. I'm sending you guys so much love. Please make sure that if you haven't checked out the other readings, you go to the description box, check out their channels, check out the readers, find out what the other elements have to say. What more are they helping you with on this journey? And if this resonated, please feel free to do those YouTube things. I would truly appreciate all the support. You guys know that I get a kick out of it. You can like, share, comment, subscribe to my channel. And if you feel called to donating to my channel, please feel free. The donations information is in the description box. Thank you again to all the readers who did this collaboration, this creative coming together, this 8x8. What awesome things this is. Thank you so much. All right, my loves, my darling Pile 2s, Soul Family, you guys have a beautiful, beautiful day, evening, whenever you're watching. I am going to leave you here and I will see you at my next reading. I love you all. Bye. Hello, Pile 3. If you chose the 3rd question card, excuse me, how have I become me? What am I like? Hello, Pile 3. If you chose the 3rd card, the question, how have I become me? What am I like? This is your message from the element wind. So, Pile 3, apparently, my throat chakra is a little bit locked up. I don't know for sure why I am feeling this, but I can definitely tell you that right off the bat, before I even start channeling, because your messages have been coming in really strong, but your energy is, I don't even want to say resistant or hesitant. It's tired and kind of heavy energy. Each and every one of the piles has gotten one of these resistance cards from the Harry Potter Magical Meditations deck. And resistance can be us pushing away from something, rejecting things, us not heeding a calling, us challenging a truth that we know out of fear or pain or guilt or shame. But resistance is one of those words that carries a dual meaning. It is also a strength, a resilience, a resolve. It's recognizing when something doesn't resonate, when something doesn't fit, when something doesn't match or feel right, when there is an injustice, when there is some sort of wrong, seeing it and standing against it. With all the other piles, I've been able to jump directly in, and I kept the kind of first attempt in this quite intentionally, because part of the question here of how have I become me and what am I like, part of that involves coming into an awareness of a trial and error, of the first step. This is very unusual. I'm being taken to the scientific method. And when you form a hypothesis, which is the first step of the scientific method, it's quite exciting because it does embody part of the resistance energy, part of the revolutionary energy. You recognize that something could be done in an easier way, or that there is an unseen, unrecognized resource. And you realize that there is a way to make things easier, a way to essentially recreate something. But then you have to go into the experiment process. And if you're new to my channel, one of the things that I mention all the time is something that we tell our children, my husband and I, and we tell them that repetition is the key to learning. When you're going through the scientific process and you do the experiment and you get the results, those are never, that first round is never the definitive results. You go right back in. You can adapt, change, meld the hypothesis, but the basis of it always remains. The foundation of it always remains that initial inspiration, that initial spark of awareness, of genius, essentially, is there. But sometimes once you get through to the end, you realize, well, it didn't quite work out the way that I wanted it to, but the foundation is still strong. The foundation is still strong. And then you go back through the process over and over and over again until you begin to duplicate the results and create a set of statistical, reliable results to prove what you have already known as true, but presented as a hypothesis. Now, the symbolism of this, with all of this, is when we come to a point in our journey and the winds begin to blow and we sit with a question like what your guides in the element of wind are bringing forth with, how have I become me? What am I like? We can resist the first one. And when we resist this first question, then we begin to move through the second question with a false hypothesis. And the reason why there is a resistance to how have I become me is because the trial and error process of becoming ourselves is not an easy one. It's one that involves trial and error in life. Going through a relationship and realizing it isn't the right fit. Whether the relationship was just outright a disaster or it truly just wasn't the right relationship. Each and every moment in which we choose will I stay or will I go? We become more of whoever we are. When we lose people, when we lose jobs, when we achieve and find success, all of these things are part of the trial and error process of life. It's part of that learning journey to become who we are. For me, the question of how have I become me has become a very prominent kind of energy in my life. So when I first sat down to bring this message forth, I needed some time because the energy is very similar. I can tell you a lot of the answer to how I have become me has to do with the painful losses I have experienced in my life. And those experiences shaping me, how I respond to them shaping me. Each pile has also had a different kind of manifestation of wind come through. For you, you have, and forgive me if I butcher the pronunciation, but you have katabatic and straight line winds. Now, these are both very similar, but katabatic winds are also known as the Santa Ana winds. And those occur in Southern California. And straight line winds came through right away. But when the Santa Ana winds came through, I thought that it was two different types of wind. Santa Ana winds are very special, very unique. They occur specifically during the autumn. They are very dry, dusty wind. They are also known as prime winds for the possibility of spreading fire. And so they can be destructive. Now, straight line winds, I'm from North Dakota. Straight line winds are unfortunately more common than I would prefer. They are very similar to tornadoes in terms of destruction, but there's no cycle or cyclone energy. There's no spinning, no turning of it. It is literally just a 70-mile-an-hour straight line wind that knocks the wind out of you and rips up trees, takes down branches, causes destruction. I've seen the aftermath of straight line winds. It looks very similar to a tornado running through. Both of these winds are downward energies. It's from the sky down. They're considered downhill winds. And this is very different to, say, tornadoes, which need that bottom energy, that ground energy in order to form. These come down. And so a lot of what I am picking up from the energy of the winds in particular here, along with how have I become me? What am I like? It's those moments that catch you off guard, those moments that hit you without any forewarning. With thunderstorms, you get the lightning and you get the thunder, and then you get the winds and the rain a lot of the time. And with tornadoes, you get the really tall clouds and the changing of the sky color. And you have these things, these different ways that it presents, but with straight line winds, they just come and whip through. And okay, your guides are like, cover the card. So we're going to look at what this resistance card is, because it's going to, I wanted to say elaborate or expand, but then I got a kind of pause energy. It's going to do what it's going to do. It's going to bring forth what it's going to bring forth. There's a request from wind, and this is very gentle, which is unexpected, especially with straight line and the Santa Ana winds out here. There's kind of this gentle nudging to reopen, to rediscover something for you, pile 3. So let's take a look. The quote is, "As I told you once before, Mr. Potter, naughty children deserve to be punished." Professor Umbridge from Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Professor Umbridge is the nasty and ruthless professor of defense against the dark arts in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, though she is really a spy for the Ministry of Magic. Professor Umbridge delights in the power she has over students, subjecting those who defy her to terrible abuse. In a courageous act of resistance, Harry and his friends form Dumbledore's army to study defense against the dark arts on their own. Have you ever had to deal with an authority figure, a teacher, boss, or parent who abused their authority like Professor Umbridge? What sort of acts of resistance did you take to handle the situation? Sometimes we have interactions with people. We have situations. Even if it isn't a direct thing, it could be something on a more collective, more global level where you see someone in a place of authority, in a place of rulership, and that person is meant to be someone that you can trust, be someone that you can rely on, be someone that hears and takes into consideration. And when you grow up with a lot of examples of people who are meant to be something, promised to be something, and then aren't, it can shape how you view spirit. It can shape how you view a higher power, because if these people who are in this place and meant to do these things are this way, wouldn't a higher power get involved? Wouldn't there be some sort of karmic justice? And feeling that way and going through situations that knock you down, that make you feel like the quote, the saying that I keep getting, and please forgive the language, is shit rolls downhill. And when you're standing at the bottom of the hill, you're the one taking it. You're the one receiving it. And in the spiritual community, we talk about receiving a lot. And if you're downhill and you're in a situation where shit is rolling downhill and you're in a receptive mode, it can skew so much because some people don't understand that the authority and the power that they have is not meant to be a portal or a doorway or an outlet for them to work their shadow out in, atrocious ways. Like, I'm sorry, when I think about Professor Umbridge, the first time I read Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, I literally threw the book across my bedroom so many times and just screamed and stomped and yelled about how frustrated I was with Professor Umbridge. She represents everything that is wrong with people in a place of power and the lack of awareness. And when I was, 16 years old, I didn't realize that. I didn't understand that what was being triggered within me was my resistance, my sense of justice, of fighting, of strength, of awareness that there is a better way to be. Sometimes we become who we are, and it is a direct result of being downhill from someone like that. And you can look at that situation and then be like, but I'm a good person. I do this, I do that. I'm always this way. And guys, I'm telling you, I've been that person. I am a good person. I do work for the collective. I, pour my heart and soul into so much of this. And I go through really, really difficult things in my life. I was born in a difficult situation to a traumatic family. But one thing that I learned is if I hadn't, I would not be here. I would not be me. When you recognize the different things that you've gone through and how they have shaped you, that's when you can move on to what am I like? Because you're able to see all the things that make you feel like you're getting knocked down and torn apart, that destroy for the sake of destruction, not for the sake of betterment, but true destruction. You see these things, but you don't engage. You don't become that. And sometimes it feels like that relegates you to a harder life. And it's understandable that that is how it feels, because it does feel ridiculously out of balance in this world that people who do the wrong thing and aren't consciously aware and aren't empathetic really have more power and more say and more control. And those of us who are not that way simply don't. But you're the straight line wind. There's this calling from the wind. And it's like the wind is brushing against you, against your cheek, against your ear, almost as though, you're standing in front of a fan and all of a sudden there's just this gust against part of your face, and it's the wind, and the wind is trying to help you understand you're the straight line wind, but you're not causing destruction out of malice or anger. You're not destroying because you revel in pain of others. You're the straight line wind that says, I'm coming from above to show those below how to elevate, how to rise, how to move beyond it instead of becoming it. I apologize if you guys heard a loud noise. I just accidentally hit my microphone. So I want to get a little bit more information here. Spirit guides, and the mighty element of wind. Can I please get more messages for pile 3? Help them to see and know what it is that you are bidding for. Okay. Thank you. We have the 3 of Wands, the Ace of Swords, and the Star. Okay, what is the shadow energy? Yes, the 4 of Cups. Even though this cat looks happy, the 4 of Cups traditionally it's a card of loss, of sadness, of grief, so deep and profound that there's a complete and utter resistance and refusal to look at anything new being offered. It's like coming to the end of the first experiment and it was a complete and utter failure, and you're in a state of wondering whether the foundation of your hypothesis is really accurate, is really true, your own truth that you feel through your entire being was seemingly disproven, but you still feel the truth of it. And so when spirit comes in and offers something, it's hard to want to be receptive, especially when you don't realize that you're the straight line winds, that you're the one that is coming from above and bringing the messages below, bringing the awareness to others that are still downhill. Because when we go through certain things that knock us down and knock us back, we forget. We forget to look to the sun. When cats put their ears down like that, it indicates irritation, agitation, anxiety, fear, or defensiveness. This one in particular feels a lot like fear and shame. For some, shame just keeps coming through. It's like, I've come so far. I've risen this high. I was blossoming in the sun, and now there are so many towering over me. But those towering over you are not, they're not meant to be of your concern, is what I just heard. They're not meant to make you small. They're not there to make you withdraw. They're there so that you can see that there is a difference between those that bloom and follow the sun and those that understand the nature of both the sun and the shade. That awareness is where your victory is. We have laurel leaves here, which means the more that you continue trying, going through the process, going through the cycle, the happier you get and the more willing you are to tumble the cups that aren't right. because you recognize, oh my gosh, look, Queen of Cups. You begin to move into the state of recognition of exactly what the truth is, because you've always had it within and you've already built your foundation upon it, but you just needed the clarity. And I'm not going to sit here and say that if you're getting knocked down in life, if life is handing you nothing but Four of Cups moments, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's all hunky-dory, it's all fine, it's all great, it's all dandy. I will tell you it is for a reason. I will tell you there is meaning behind it. There is purpose behind it. There is a lesson and there's strength and wisdom to be gained. But I'm not going to tell you that it isn't something that you should feel your emotions about. Please do. Like, feel everything. You'll find that clarity. You'll find the clarity and the awareness that you know that some people see things in black and white. Some people focus only on the negatives, only on the black. They don't see through the lens of the spectrum. They see the negative through the shadow. You have this clarity that you can embrace both the light and the dark, blend them together, but keep them separate. Hold them within yourself and use them to shine brighter and shine in a completely different way. These two cards really feel very oppositional to me because the Star is really focused on the night, but the Three of Wands has the sunflowers, which is a very day card. So this is learning how to balance all the parts of yourself, learning that every thing that you've gone through, every knockdown, every clouded vision, every experiment result that didn't work out, didn't fall the way that you expected. It's part of a set of what you need to realize the foundation, the truth, the path, the purpose of it all. The victory is not over others. It's over your own mentality. It's over your own loss of belief and faith and hope. The victory is in realizing that it's like you're the star. You're the light that you're looking for. You're looking for the light and you're doing all these things to find it, but it's you. It is you. And each and every result becomes a piece of the structure that is you. It's how you have become who you are. Let's see this final message. The King of Pentacles. When you are an empath, a psychic, when you are someone who has gone through a lot of hardship, a lot of trauma, a lot of painful experiences, when you can resonate with the anguish and the frustration that Harry and his friends went through in the 5th book, the King of Pentacles energy, this I want to build something, I want to nurture it, I want to be here in this world. It can feel like a mirage. Like it's not a possibility. It's not for you. The higher realms are a lot easier, and when you're in the world, you're downhill. But there is this revelation for you. The wind wants to bring in this revelation for you that the things that you've been through, the series of experiments throughout life, experiences that you have endured, that you have persevered through, that you may perceive to have knocked you down, were part of what has created you. The what am I like question, that's for you to create. What is your foundation? How have you become you? When you identify how you've become the person that you are, you start seeing the person that you are. What are you like? That is up to you. And you don't have to have the perception that you're not able to break into the world or ground yourself fully and firmly here because the higher realms are easier. You don't have to have that if you don't want to. Choosing who you are and what you're like involves you embodying these winds and deciding, I'm going to blow down this particular perception so that I can take this gust of wind, this warmth, like the Santa Ana winds, and blow through and light a creative spark within me to make a new choice, to take a new viewpoint. It's not about taking a new path. It's about a new perception here. The wind is your thoughts in motion. It's movement in the physical world based off of your intellect, your intuition, blending them together and moving forward from there. So when you recognize these things, that's when you start realizing that you're the one that gets to blow out all of this created perception of hierarchy, so to speak. And you get to ground your truth, how you hold all of this within you, and you get to build what you want to build. Okay, so this huge stack of little cards has main characters from some of my favorite books and TV shows and movies. So we're just going to pull some main characters, find out what the common theme and any messages for you guys are from the wind to help you really come into this revolutionary state. What's the main character? Main characters for pile 3. Can we get a viewer? Thank you. Okay, they only want 2. We have Adrian Ivashkov with Vampire Academy and Peeta Mellark with The Hunger Games. If any of you were drawn to any other piles, there is some similar energy. It is different. One more. Okay. And Emmett Cullen from Twilight. This is a lot of masculine energy here. It's energy of strength, but it's also an energy of privilege. With Adrian Ivashkov and Peter Millark, especially, these two characters both had that hierarchy, that higher standing, that didn't prevent them from being pseudo outcasts. Peter went into the Hunger Games, so it didn't matter what status, he still got thrown in the mix and thrown to the wolves. You know, with Adrian, he was misunderstood because his gift was unknown. He had a gift of the element of spirit. And it's a gift that they were still learning about, still learning how to handle it. But it was known to drive people crazy because they didn't understand. They didn't know how to navigate it. And I got to tell you guys, me personally, with my gifts, there are parts of my gifts that I struggle with deeply that make me feel so many negative things about myself. But at the same time, you guys have this energy of Emmett Cullen. And Emmett was a daredevil in life as a human and in death. But he was loyal, loving, and incredibly protective. There's so much here with these three main characters that they go through so many hardships. They go through, loving someone who doesn't love them back. They go through losing life, losing sanity, being forced into a situation where you have to do atrocious things like PETA. But each and every one of these characters maintained their authentic, good natures, good hearts. PETA went through torture and he still clawed his way back to his goodness, to the truth. Because the love he had and the authentic nature of his heart and soul was more powerful than anything that he went through, anything that was done to him by another person. This is what you contain within you. It's not always easy to see, though, especially for the self. It's like I was talking to my doctor yesterday, and I said, she was talking about my gifts, and I said, I love that I can help so many people with my gifts. I love that my healing works, that the intentions that I put into bracelets really do truly heal people and help their lives. I love getting that feedback and hearing those stories. It's such an honor. It's such a privilege. But some days I wish it would work for me. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes we are meant to help others and learn how to ask for help when we are struggling. We're just going to get some final messages from your guides. Just a couple. And the cards just want to fly out for you guys. We've got one here. Can I get one more? For pile 3. There's one more in here. Oh, sometimes the synchronicities, they just hit me. So we have solfeggio frequency that is 852 hertz with the third eye chakra. It is awakening of intuition, psychic gifts, and spiritual awareness. This is exactly what I was just talking about. How sometimes the gifts that we have, the things that we can do, can feel like a burden. It can feel painful because we don't always see it for ourselves or are able to use it for ourselves the way that we can for others. No one else can share your story better than you. Your voice matters. And I want to mention to you guys, in the beginning of this reading, my throat chakra was very blocked up, very locked up. This message is 100% for you. Adrian, Peta, Emmett, Harry, and his friends, they all had a story to tell. Their life, their experiences, the awareness that they came to, the gifts that they have. Sure, you can tell someone else and they can repeat it. But when it comes from you, when you speak your story, your truth, when you share this truth of how you've become you, what you're like, why you're that way, what you've had to endure, but also what you have embodied in order to become who you are. That story is meant to come from your voice because your heart is where it channels from, not your mind, but your heart. And your voice does matter. You can see a lot of injustice all around you. You can go through a lot of it. Your story and your voice could save someone else. It could give them the strength to embody the wins that they need to embody in order to change. Your story, what you have done, what you have overcome, how you have done it, how you perceive it. And it doesn't matter whether other people say that that's not accurate or not. It matters that that's what you know and what you experienced. Yes. You are your own hero or heroine. No one needs to save you, for you are all you need. This right here. Your voice matters. How have you become who you are? Yes, it's easy to look at all the outside people, but who you are is based off of the strength and resilience that you have within you. The willingness to level all of the mentalities, all of the conditioning, all of the belief patterns that you knew were not true to you so that you could be your truest self. Your willingness to stand downhill, to learn so that you could understand and then rise and sweep down to help others. You're a hero. You're a heroine. You are the super person. You are. The story that you have is one that's meant to be told by you, shared by you. That's your King of Pentacles energy. That's where you are trying to be blown towards. That's what the wind is trying to bring you to, is this revelation that the story that you have, the wisdom that you have, the voice that you have that is what you build upon. For any of you who are looking or contemplating writing a book, starting a blog, doing a podcast, anything like that, I strongly encourage you to leap into it, take that chance. Also, I just saw a series of the number 48. 48 reduces to a 12 to a 3. That's, hanged man energy, Neptune energy. It's also the Empress and Venus energy, if that resonates or is significant for any of you. But 48, you may want to Google that, look it up, look up what the angel number 48 is, or you could go and look at what angel is angel number 48, or it may just be your favorite number, but it showed up 3 times just now, both on the clock and on my monitor for the screen itself. So, pile 3. I don't even know what to say to close. I just want you guys to know I believe in you, and I am honored to read your energy. I am honored to bring these messages for you, to you, and to sit here as a family, as a community together to help you see that you are no longer downhill. You have elevated, and it's an honor, truly an honor to have you on my channel. I want to take this time to say thank you to your guides, my guides, Great Spirit, to the element, wind. Thank you for these messages, for this awareness, for this love, for this guidance. Thank you. I also want to say thank you so much to Colleen with Spiritualistic for bringing us all together, for the inspiration for this amazing, creative soul family coming together in collaboration. And thank you to everyone else on the other channels. I don't want to go through the whole list again, but each and every one of you holds a special place in my heart, in my soul, and it is an honor to be connected with you in this life. It is an honor to share my gifts and to have you share your gifts. Thank you so much. If this resonated, please, give me that equal energy exchange stuff, but help support the channel basically. You can like, share, subscribe, comment in the comment section below. I love interacting with you guys. I love your comments. I just do. They always put a smile on my face. 90% of the time I screenshot them and send them to like my husband and my besties. And you guys really, really do help me in those moments to be a light and essentially just help reassure me that I'm on the right path. I'm impacting the way that I hope. So don't forget to go to the description box, check out the messages and guidance from the other elements, from the other channels. Those are all in the description box below. And if any of you are feeling called to doing any kind of donations, those links are also in the description box. Not required, not expected, but definitely appreciated. And if anybody is resonating with that, writing a memoir or anything like that, I do have experience with it. So if you need a little bit of advice, shoot me an email. All right, pile 3, I am going to leave you here. Thank you again. I love you guys so much. Bye.